Hello, good evening. Let me know if you can hear me. Hello, hello. Good evening. Let me know if you can hear me. Just gonna wait for a few more minutes to get everyone in here. Good night, good night. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Hopefully everyone rang 2022 on a good note with people around them, if you could, if you're allowed to have people around you. Make sure you share the live. We're gonna have a great conversation with Mr. Mark Forde. So we're just gonna wait for a few more people to come in, and then we'll get started. Good night, good night. Happy New Year. How is everyone doing tonight? How is the weather where you are? How is work if you did work today? Did you have today off? Are you still on vacation? Make sure you share the live. We're going to get started in a moment here. Good evening, good evening. Hello, Marvin. Make sure you share the live. Start in a few more minutes. Gonna wait a couple minutes before we start. Give everyone some time to come in. Hello, Dan. How are you? Happy New Year. Good evening, DJ Lust. J Buns. Hello, hello. Happy New Year. Make sure you share the live. We're gonna have a good conversation with Mark Forde. Just gonna wait a couple more minutes. Happy New Year, yes. Hopefully you rang it in right. Thank you, thank you. I need some tea, it's really cold over here. I'm wearing a sweater, wearing a shirt underneath, wearing my sweats. I have a blanket, it's cold. All right, I think we can start. We have enough people in. Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome to the second half of season 4 to All Things Pan. I am your host, Danielle George. We are sponsored by Pantastics 868. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. They have everything from tenor sticks all the way to bass sticks. If you live in North America, Canada or US, just message me and I will try my best to get whatever pan stick you need a little faster. So if you're new to this page, hello Jam Fam, how are you? If you're new to this page, we usually talk to panists, arrangers, tuners, builders, steel pan enthusiasts. This season we kind of mixed it up a bit. We spoke to a few DJs, some soca artists, some parents. So I thought we'd come back to our roots for a bit and talk to a steel panist. Let me see if I can get him on here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. I'm super excited to have him on here. He's been a busy, busy man. Hello, Mr. Mark Forde. How are you?
Hey, good night. I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm good. I know you're busy. I'm thankful that you had some time to carve in for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Actually, the band would be on stage all no, actually. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, but because I'm overseas, I got away.
So did you go on vacation or?
No.
Oh, okay.
Currently on a contract.
Okay.
So I'm playing at Mandarin Oriental. That's a hotel in Canoan, which is in the
Okay.
Grenadines. So I'm gonna be here for a few more days.
Okay. Well, congratulations on getting that contract.
Thanks.
We'll get into that later on. So,
Yeah.
for those that don't know you, you're Mr. Mark Forde from Barbados. How did you start Pan? Give us a small bio of Mr. Mark Forde.
All right. Um, I'll try. Um, I started playing pan when I was about 12. Um, it was one of the things offered at my secondary school. We had a steel band there. So I went to join. I went to join, and it was kind of a bad time to join because during that first term, there's something we have in Barbados called NIFCA, right? Which is
Okay.
like a performing arts showcase competition kind of thing. So they were preparing for that just because of the time period that
Okay.
it usually falls. So that's the head time that new children are gonna come. But
Right.
it's kind of a bad time to just take on new people when you're preparing for competition.
Exactly.
Eventually, they gave me a form to go to a camp. This was like eventually I hang around the band and stuff. They gave me a form for camp to join at the end of the term. So that summer camp, I ended up playing the cello, the four-pan cello. Um, and from there, I went on to play at the school. I went on to arrange for the school band at some point. Um, Eventually, there were auditions for the National Youth Steel Orchestra. So I auditioned kind of by accident. Um, yeah, like all right. So
Okay.
the way that things used to be with us, like
Yeah.
a friend of mine, another pan player, Mr. Dwayne Gill, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So eventually, he actually eventually, when he got to the school, he was in his final year, but he eventually came back to teach at the school, just to teach the steel band on evenings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anytime that I needed new music or new programs like Finale or Band in the Box, anything that I needed, like I'd usually meet him somewhere. He'd give me a CD with it, um, and I'd have it there, not a legal copy, but I'd have the program and the music, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of arranged to meet at the school so he could give me some new music and programs and
Right.
like video, even games and stuff. Like he was like maybe a supplier for all the computer games,
He
like
was your
anything
guy.
that
He
could
was your
put on the
guy.
CD. Like we just used to meet and share. So one day we met at the school. It was a Saturday. We decided, well, yeah, we have no rehearsal today. Let me just meet up and swap CDs.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to the school and found auditions happening. And the
That's
guy was like, "Oh
hilarious.
yeah, you play pan?" It was like, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, stand up there." Right, right. So
Just threw you in.
right. So yeah, really, I ended up being the section leader for the cellos eventually,
Right.
right? When that disbanded, well, before that disbanded, after secondary school, I went to community college. I did the associate degree in music. Um, and then when the Steel Orchestra, the National Youth Steel Orchestra, eventually disbanded, I joined the Karmic Steel Orchestra, now known as Mosaic Steel Orchestra in Barbados. Right.
Okay.
I understand there's also a Mosaic in Canada, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to alleviate any confusion, I joined Mosaic Steel Orchestra Barbados, well, Karmic at the time.
Yeah.
Um, once again as cello section leader, because it had in a lot of the same players that had left the National Youth Steel Orchestra. So we kind of kept the same structure. I eventually started arranging there as well.
Okay.
Um, eventually, in like 2012, I took a contract to Qatar. So I stayed there for like 4 months.
Oh wow.
Didn't really feel like staying. Like when it was time for the contract to renew, I
Yeah.
decided that that wasn't really the place for me. So I decided instead to go to Trinidad, where I did the bachelor's in music. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I'm now, well, not no currently, but yeah, I'm now based back home in Barbados, where I teach and perform.
Wow. You've done a lot. So I
None of
understand
it.
you started, yeah. So you started arranging when you were young. How did that come about? Was
Yeah,
was it something that's always been in you? Did someone kind of guide you through that?
both actually. I
Okay.
always like had I would say, I think I always had a good ear for music.
Mm,
Um, so I came up from young, like singing in the Sunday school choir,
mm-hmm.
right? So like I entered secondary school with no real formal music training, but I could hear harmonies,
Right.
right? Because I was a tenor, right?
Right.
So that's something that I guess they kind of molded that into me, that I could always hear harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I joined cadets. I think cadets was the first thing that I joined when I was in secondary school. Um,
Okay.
I think if you're in the States, it's similar to what they would call an ROTC program.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I joined that, and it was like the guys were, oh, we need like some of the new people to join the band. And I was like, okay, I could do that. And they, do you play anything? No. So that's where I learned snare drum, right? I started with the snare drum.
Okay.
Eventually, I got onto the steel band, and then I could hear stuff. I had
Mm-hmm.
ideas. My same friend Dwayne that used to give me like the new music and
Yeah.
finale and computer games.
Yeah.
Um, the the system that our school used at the time was that the teacher before Dwayne, anytime that NIFCA, the same competition, came around, he
Yeah.
would arrange one song and Dwayne would
Okay.
arrange the other one. So when
Okay.
that teacher left and Dwayne took over, he arranged one song and gave me the chance to arrange the other one. So at that time, I was about 14, right?
Right.
So that arrangement eventually got a bronze award.
Wow.
I think the next arrangement I did got a silver. And then the
Okay.
final arrangement I did, like before leaving school, got the gold. And that was that. Like, that was the end of my school career.
Well,
Yeah,
you did it on a high note, so that's good.
until I started teaching again, like the next year at 18, right?
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
that was yeah, I would say the arranging, I was guided through it, but there
Mm-hmm.
was always the interest.
Nice. So do you prefer arranging than playing, or playing than arranging, or a bit of both?
It depends. Like I like playing.
Okay.
I do like playing.
Yeah.
However, I find in a steel band setting,
Mm.
especially if it's a steel band with like really capable players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like if I give them anything, they'll play it. Then
Right.
I prefer to arrange and get ideas out and just be creative with stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah, there are times when you prefer to play.
Mm.
However, I find if I'm around a really capable band, I'd
Yeah.
like to I like to dump ideas on them.
So don't join your band is what you're saying. I will watch.
Or you can join, and so I have more players.
It's funny. So you said you played cello, you played tenor. Do you have a
Yeah.
go-to pan, or do you play everything when you need to?
I my go-to pan at this point would be the tenor pan, right?
Mm-hmm.
I started off on four cellos. Um, I do well, yeah, I do a lot of double tenor as well.
Okay.
Um, at one point when there was the youth steel orchestra, I was on triple cello. I had to learn that. I kind of just gravitated to tenor
Okay.
as I think it was kind of, I had no choice as I wanted
Mm,
to further my studying. Like,
right.
there was no way you were going to like lug around a cello everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of got access to a tenor
Right.
and I worked from there. So yeah, I never really got a good grasp of double seconds. I will admit
Mm,
that, right?
okay.
Yeah, double seconds is not my strong point at all. So by extent, not guitar either. It's kind of the same chart. I
Really?
think, yeah, I think there was like I think there was only room in my brain for one double pan, and the double tenor got there first.
I see. So no
Yeah,
no seconds,
no
no bit of bass,
seconds.
no bass.
Oh, I play bass. I play bass.
Okay.
Um, not regularly. Like
Okay.
it's weird because like if I have to arrange a song, like I'll play seconds to the point of showing a person his part.
Right.
But you can't put me on a gig on seconds. Like my brain goes blank, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, like, I can play seconds if I have a part to show someone as an arranger. But then
Right.
after that, yeah. Like even I played
It just
quads for a while in my band at some point, with Mosaic. Right? I even played like the
yeah.
quadraphonics with the two pans in the ear and
Yeah.
so, like, I got that before I got seconds.
Interesting. So anything
Yeah.
more or less than two, you're good.
More or less.
More or less. So you mentioned your band in Barbados. Is it Euphoria?
Euphony.
Euphony.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Okay, so that came about actually. Euphony is actually less than a year old, right?
Oh my, okay.
A few months.
Yeah.
What happened there? We there were like three of us were playing a gig at a hotel in Barbados, Sandals. So we were
Okay.
playing at Sandals. It was a trio gig, trio with tracks. Um, and eventually, due to COVID, due to the pandemic, the hotel would have been closed for a while. So
Right.
we didn't have that gig anymore. Now, when they reopened, I think like back in May, they wanted like a big reopening. So they didn't want the trio. They said, well, for this event, they would like a full like 8, 9 piece steel band.
Right.
So we pulled together 8, 9 people. We did
Mm-hmm.
the gig, and from there they were like, okay, yeah, we're keeping this, right?
You're
So
not going
no,
anywhere, you're staying.
yeah. So what used to be a trio gig is now
Mm-hmm.
an 8 piece gig that we do every Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the band leader, my boy Dwight Callender,
Mm-hmm.
another steel panist, also a drummer, brilliant drummer.
Nice.
Take one of the top drummers in the island right now. Tours with
Wow.
Alison Hines, Arturo Tapin, those guys, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's actually the band leader. He's playing seconds. He like I didn't know he used to play seconds either. I always knew him as a drummer or a tenor player.
Right.
But when this gig came up, he was on seconds. It was like, yeah, he started out on seconds apparently. Right. Like I would have never guessed.
Neither would I. Wow.
So,
So is it all just friends? Is it just people that you kind of know through the Steelpan community in Barbados?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The band is all people that we know.
Okay.
Eventually, like I guess more people get added as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, like if a person can't make it, namely either Dwight or me,
Right.
there's another player, Maria, who went to school with me in the
Okay.
same band, um, and we call her to fill in usually, right?
Nice.
Mainly because she already owns her own seconds. So it's a lot easier for her to get the set list and practice it on her own.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. There's a bass guitar player, Damian Neblick. He's not like a staple in the band, but there've been a couple times that we couldn't use the bass pans, and we call Damien, right?
Okay.
Damien is usually pretty easy to work with. I think he's currently the bassist for Marshall, right? Yeah.
You're just
So
pulling people from
from ev-
celebrities. Like, you shouldn't be doing that.
no, we're not pulling people. Like that's kind of like Damien is like the guy that Dwight always works with, right?
Okay.
Right. So that's the thing.
Okay.
I think we have a good cross section of musicians and a fair amount of talent happening in Barbados. So it becomes a bit easier to just pull guys or call a guy for a gig, and like by the time you check, it's like, yo, this guy has like credentials, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we just call them for gigs like out of nowhere.
Yeah. So do you plan on eventually traveling with this band, or is it just going to stay in Barbados? Do you have any future plans?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay.
First of all, well, I said before, Dwight is the band leader, right?
Yeah.
So it's not to say that he's not like, he doesn't dictate everything, right? But I'm still going to acknowledge that it's not really my band, like per se. Like I'm in charge of anything. I'm pretty sure though that if the opportunity to travel were to come up and the guys were available, that they take it. Yeah. They're definitely a group I'd be glad to travel with.
Yeah, that's good to hear. You said you have a bassist guitarist. Would you say that's better or about the same as just a bass pan? Just from what you've had.
I'd say it depends on the setting, right?
Okay.
Like the times that we've used the bass guitar, it would have really been a case of like maybe like last minute or bass player couldn't make it or something else came up, right? And we were able to pull in a bass guitar as opposed to another competent bass pan player. There have been other times that maybe like the stage space, the performance space is really small, right? And yeah, you had to like cut some pans, in which case the bass guitar is a bit more portable and a bit easier to work with just for the space. I'd also say that in terms of versatility, in terms of what the bass guitar is able to execute, there's definitely a difference. However, I'd say like, if you want like a full out steel band vibe, like get a bass band.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not against the bass guitar being in the band when it needs to be.
Yeah.
But like I like when a steel band is like a full steel band.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed that you've played at a lot of hotels lately, or is it just the one hotel?
Back home,
Yeah,
about two of them.
two of them.
Yeah.
How did that, if you don't mind me asking, we're getting to the business side of this just in a bit. How did those contracts come about? Did you approach them? Did they approach you?
Okay.
How?
Well, I already explained the sandals contract, which was through the band. Well, it was really through the trio, right?
Right.
So I didn't really approach them. There's a guy there who books their entertainment. And usually when he wants pan, he's gonna call our band leader, who pulls it together. Right? There was another guy, I think the same band leader actually. What happens with us is that we have a bit of a community, right?
Okay.
So between some of the players in our band who play a tenor, even before there was a band per se,
right.
Between us, we'd always know if I need someone to fill in on my gig, these are the persons that I can call, right? So there's always like a community of us that I know. Well, I'm traveling I can call these persons to fill in on any gigs I have, or if they have clashing gigs, if anyone is double booked.
Right.
We usually have that relationship, that circle that we can fall back on.
Good.
So the hotel that I play at on Sundays, one guy used to play there. They closed when the pandemic hit. They changed the management, did renovations, and in between that time, he found another gig at a different hotel. So
Wow.
when this hotel reopened and called him back, he put them on to me. Right. So it's not,
Okay. That's good.
so it's not really a gig that I went for. I actually found that from the time that I started teaching, like the secondary schools and whatnot, I have actually not been pushing myself as hard to get gigs.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of my like social media posts are like the same two hotels, right?
Yeah.
But I tend to record each time that I play, just so that there's something to post, or just to see like, okay, well, I'm active, I'm doing stuff. And I found that as I keep doing that, more people keep calling for gigs.
Right.
Yeah, I think it may be, I'm not sure if it gives the impression that there's more going on than there actually is.
It seems that way. Seems like you're always busy.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, a gig, like usually I have 2 steady gigs per week, and anything else that comes up is probably like a one-off. So sometimes I'd still get called to play at a guest house or a villa, or I play at church regularly. Although at church I'm playing more keyboard now than pan. Yeah, but there's always like other stuff that come up. Maybe a wedding, or another friend of mine realized he was double booked for 2 weddings and sends me to one. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was gonna ask, if you don't mind me asking, when you do
Well,
your hotel gigs, how long are you playing for at a time? Is it just like a 1 hour thing and you're gone, or are you there all day? How does that work? If someone's looking to like play at a hotel one day.
okay. That is usually like between, I find the hotel gigs are usually, if you're doing solo, typically on a Sunday, a hotel is gonna want you maybe like 12 to 3, like that, what they call that lunchtime period. So you're not gonna play 3 hours straight, right? Or at least I don't. Maybe someone does, right? But I'd usually play for maybe 45 to an hour set, take a break, come back, another 45 to an hour set, take a break, come back, and play whatever is left of the time, right? When the band does our regular gig on a Monday night, that's part of a wider show, a floor show. So that's usually a 45-minute set, right? That we play, because it's not just us. It's part of a wider show. There's the fire eater, the stilt walkers, dancers, other stuff is coming on afterward. So we have to be fairly mindful of our time there. We can't drag it on.
Right. So when you guys are performing, do you guys have a set list before you start, or you guys just pick a song as you go, feel the
No,
vibe?
we have a set list before we start. The way that the band performs, we've kind of gone the route of, if you look at like, maybe not a steel band, if you look at like a standard soca band or a live performer, a pop band, most pop artists, they aren't gonna like do a song and stop and start another song and stop. A lot of them are like going from one band straight to the other, especially if they have like a guy running drum machine or stems or any of that stuff. So we tend to have a set list beforehand, and we don't stop in between songs a whole lot either. Right? So yeah, we have a few transitions. Look at the band leader when he does this. Know that your next song is coming. Make sure you set list on the ground by your foot so you know what song is next. Right?
Nice.
Yeah, maybe we'd stop once or twice in between, like mainly when we're like shifting genres. So we wouldn't
Oh,
go
okay.
from like a soca song straight to like a pop set.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
how
we
many? No, go ahead.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
no, we're just continuing on the same point. You can go.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how many songs do you guys have to remember to play at a hotel every Monday? Do you guys do the same set? Do you guys mix your songs up? I'm just trying to get into the mind if someone wants to get into the hotel one day.
Okay. All right. We don't do the same set every week,
Hmm.
but we do have a pool of songs that we know that we have, right?
Okay.
So what we did was early up when the gig first started, we did a set of rehearsals on like maybe a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening, a weekend, sometime that people were free. And we
Okay.
say, okay, if these were the songs, we're gonna run through them, right? The next thing about the way that the band works is that with it being like 8 piece, right? With it
Hmm.
being an 8 piece, 8, 9 people, um, a lot of us, most of us, all of us are, yeah, we're all people who are like musically competent.
Right.
So it's always a case of, all right, when we come to rehearse, we know what songs we're gonna do. Everyone should really come knowing, like for me,
Hmm.
I'm playing double tenor in the band, but the between myself and the double seconds player, we're holding like the middle parts. So I
Right.
come knowing my chord progression, know what key the song is in. If you're on tenor, come knowing the melody. So that
Right.
then like the three tenor players just have to work on like phrasing together. Um,
Hmm.
maybe there were a couple of things that they learned different. They have to pick which one they're going with, right? So the
Right.
rehearsal isn't like a grueling process. Um, like what most panyards would be, where like
Yeah.
one person is walking around from person to or section to section,
Yeah.
showing parts, right? Like we kind of
Yeah.
get there to rehearsal. The bass guy is supposed to know his bass line.
Right.
I'm supposed to know my chords or harmonies, whatever I'm going to be doing. The tenors are supposed to come doing their melody,
Hmm.
and we put that together. So at this point, we have a set of songs that we know we're going to play. Sometimes the band leader will post a set list and be like, okay, here's a new song. Make
Hmm.
sure you know this. And we don't rehearse. We get there, and he's like, yeah, next song, and you best know it, right?
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Wow. So it's no joke.
yeah, no joke. Like,
No joke.
that's
Wow.
sometimes how it goes. Like, sometimes, but yeah, we need to add a few new songs. So
Hmm.
we're going to add this one, and that one. We have 2 new songs that we've put in the list, and everyone do your homework, and gig is Monday.
Come back ready.
Yeah.
So, do you do most of the arranging? Is it amongst everyone else? Is it
But that's
split?
the thing, like the band, we don't even really do a lot of arranging because
Okay.
more or less between me and the double seconds player are gonna come knowing the chords.
Right.
The bass player is gonna come knowing his bass line, tenors are gonna come knowing their melody.
Hmm.
Um, we run it, and the way that the set goes, because it's more or less a short set,
Right.
um, 45 minutes, we try to keep it really quick.
Simple.
We try to keep it up tempo. We try not to play one song on for too long. So we
Okay.
don't do a whole lot of arranging in between the songs. Just like, it's like if a DJ had a Steelpan CD.
Yeah. Just let it
Yeah,
play.
so yeah, transition, next tune, transition,
Uh,
next tune. Right?
okay.
So we don't do a whole
Nice.
lot of like arrangement, like panorama style in between.
Okay.
Not for not for this gig at least.
Right. Right. That's well, that's good to know. It's good to know. Um, let's talk about Panagrama that you did a few times.
They need one.
Well, I'm putting into fruition they're going to do it again.
Maybe.
um, you, I feel like you will. Um, I know we mentioned it a long time ago, but how did you decide to do Panagrama, and what was the process like?
Okay. So for Panagrama, what really happened was Nevin,
Hmm.
um, good friend of mine, and we used to play the same band together, Mosaics, the orchestra,
Okay, I didn't know
right?
that.
Yeah, so I've known Nevin for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
He called me a day and was like, "Yeah, I have this idea, but I need people to participate. So like, you up for it?"
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, "All right, well, cool." And that was the conversation until he messaged me again. I was like, "Yeah, so we're gonna do it on this date." And I was like, "Oh shoot, yeah, he was serious, right?" So I went, I did it. I did the preliminary,
Mm-hmm.
and they came like I think me and two other guys tied for 10th.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
it was
while
I
ago.
think me, Amani from Antigua, and the other guy from Tobago that his name slips me. I am sorry. He also does
Okay.
videography and photography.
Kishan?
Not Kishon, Leandro, Leandro Nore,
Yes. Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so the three of us tied for 10th. And I was like, oh gosh, 10th, like this will not do, right? So I put in some practice over the course of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for semis, I came third.
Right.
And then finals, I was just out of it. I tried to practice. It was not going the way I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
The event was like, it's already finals. I will do what I can, do my best.
Yeah.
And I came fifth for finals, right?
So you have to come
So,
back and
well, that's the thing. Given how I know things to work within the Steelpan community,
yeah.
right? And I have actually seen it happen, right?
Right.
Nevin, knowing that I do a bit of like composing, producing, that kind of stuff, arranging.
Mm-hmm.
Nevin, knowing my capabilities, asked me to do an anthem for Panagrama
Right.
last time,
Right.
which I did. Um, so with that being done, I did not even give it a consideration to enter
Mm-hmm.
because I'm kind of already like working
Yeah.
with the organizer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's
I
fair.
know that that would always be some kind of
Yeah. Very
controversy.
true. Very
Yeah,
true.
right. So I did
Yeah.
not enter. It did still end up being somewhat controversial because another friend of mine, Andre Forde,
Right.
he entered the competition.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember seeing a comment posted somewhere. And for your sake, I will not call the name of the person who posted the
Yeah.
comment, only for your sake, right?
Thank you.
And this person made some comment that, Andre didn't deserve to be in the finals and he only got in because the person heard that he is related to me because we have the same last name. And it was like,
Are you kidding me?
yeah, like all of this, like if I know, Steelband forum comment sections is where logic goes to die, right?
Right.
So that
Wow.
was the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the record, Andre and I are not related.
Yeah.
Um, at least not to my knowledge.
You should check.
Yeah, I did check. I have an aunt that
Okay.
knows him.
Yeah.
Apparently, from where he grew up, there are two sets of Fords in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, so one Ford is his family, the other Ford is mine. Like where my
Right.
dad grew up.
Right.
Right? So yeah, it was.
Wow.
So I figure that. I figure I'm gonna continue helping out Nevin with
Yeah.
certain stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I see no reason why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And as long as that's happening, I'm probably not gonna enter for
That's
it to
fair.
become some kind of
Yeah.
bacchanal. Is like I
That's
think,
100% fair. Yeah, I
yeah,
get it. I get it. So if someone wanted to do Panagrama and they wanted you to arrange a song for them, would you help them in that way?
yeah, it would,
Yeah.
right? I'd help
Nice.
them with the arranging. In terms of if you want like tracks done,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. I see no problem with that.
That's good. That's good to hear. So if anyone's looking to join Panagrama,
Yeah, yeah.
hit them up. Let's talk about Steelpan in Barbados right now. How is that in your eyes? Could it be better? Is it going in the right direction? What's the community like in Barbados?
Okay. I think the community is, even for such a small landscape, the
Mm-hmm.
community is a bit varied, I'd say.
Okay.
Um, there is a bit of a disconnect between a lot of the older players and the younger players, right? Um, I'd also say I've observed over the years, especially among the older players, that there's a disconnect even among themselves, right? There are guys that had beef from 19 how long,
Right.
right?
And still holding on to
Um,
it.
yeah, and I think one of the unfortunate things about that is that in holding on to their personal rivalries, a lot of them have also passed it on to their students, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I've actually found like this was maybe like when I was younger, right? Like I had friends that were in a different band, mainly because like I said, they started playing at a summer camp,
Right.
like that. So a lot of us were from different schools and whatnot. So a lot of us went to different places to learn. I ended up being in the National Youth School Orchestra. Um, there were players from other bands that eventually I was like, yo, you should audition for National Steel.
Right.
And these guys were all like, nah, like between their tutor and the director at the time, there was clearly some kind of rivalry. There was clearly these guys weren't
Okay.
seeing eye to eye.
Right.
So the students were apprehensive about joining it. Um, and I think a lot of that has been going on. Well, maybe not just in the steel band community. I think
Right.
in the music community in Barbados generally. I think there are guys who are way above our league
Right.
who have had their rivalries from way back when.
Right.
And there are people who are in their camps who are kind of continuing it for no reason,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And
Yeah.
I kind of tend to look at it and be like, you are not like, for a lot of these guys, like, you are not on the level to take on this rivalry. Like, this is not at you.
Yeah.
This is way above you. This has been happening before you were born and
Yeah.
before you were playing, right? So there's a bit of that. A lot of the steel bands at this point have since like discontinued and disbanded,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah, so right now I'm trying to think. I I think there are maybe like one or two of the steel bands that I came up knowing from when it was playing that are still going, right?
Okay.
And I think most of those are still going because they were not steel bands in and of themselves. So if they
Okay.
were attached to maybe like to a church group or a community group, so it ends up being a case that like, okay, well, maybe they aren't rehearsing right now due to circumstances and
Right.
lockdowns and that stuff, but at least the equipment is there, right? I've seen cases where, and I would say this now that I'm a bit older, as I've traveled and I've seen stuff,
Yeah.
there are bands that I think did not have a continuity plan.
Okay.
So eventually, it's one thing that you have a fairly large, you have a sizable band when everyone is 14, 15. By
Yeah.
16, some guys finish school and need to either go to a university, go
Yeah.
to college, they travel to study, some start working. So there are some guys that do just because of where just because of where they're at in life,
Yeah.
they're gonna stop playing, or maybe they don't have the time. There are people who grew up, got kids. Right? But I found that a lot of the bands, they don't know where their next generation of players is coming from. And I think it was really glaring to me when I went to Trinidad to study. And I kind of started to notice, well, Exodus has EXO Cubs. Invaders has Invaders Youth. There's Renegades Junior. I even realized that some of the bands that don't necessarily have a junior band are connected maybe to some school.
Cool. Yeah.
So you would see a school that doesn't necessarily own bands. They don't have a steel band program running at the school, but all of their players go to a community band. And so you might see St. Joseph Secondary. I don't know if they have a band. They're just calling a name, right?
Yeah.
Right. You might see St. Joseph Secondary or St. Margaret's or somewhere using bands from maybe Shorzando or Forzata. and the band may not really have a youth side, but they're some way connected to a school in their surroundings, right? And that, I think that was missing from a lot of the bands in Barbados, to the point that some of the bands that have been doing like the hotel gig, there are bands here that have been doing gigs on the hotel circuit and stuff like over 20 years, right? And you look at the guys and they're all pretty much veterans,
Yeah.
right? Maybe some of the if there are any younger players in the band, maybe there are one or two that someone in the band taught them, because some of them still go into the schools and teach, and some of them would then rope in like maybe the best and brightest of their students. But a lot of the bands I found did not have a proper plan in terms of continuity. So as people progressed, got older, matured, had more things on their plate, a lot of bands did not know where other players were coming from. So right now, I think what has been happening in recent years, we've seen a lot more soloists, and I would say soloists who are more musically literate through the community college program. We have the associate degree in music, right? So most guys do there after they have done their O levels, their CXC. Some guys will go there and they will continue. So I'm a graduate of that program. I currently teach it part-time as well. You would know Hashim Durant, right? Everyone knows Hashim by now.
You should know. You guys should know who he is.
Right. Hashim is also a graduate of that program. There was another guy in Panorama the first year, Dwayne Jones. Yeah, he's also a graduate of that program, but he actually did it on tuba. Because he's also I think to date he's the only person that have graduated on tuba from that program. There are other guys who play tuba, but they may enter like on trumpet or something.
Right.
Although they play tuba elsewhere. Right. So yeah, I think a lot of the younger guys, I think they're playing at a higher standard as we should, I guess. Right. With the stuff that we're given access to at an earlier age. I think some of the guys are also a bit more business minded, I'd say.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think we've been exposed to a lot earlier, right? I guess on account of a lot of the same older guys that we end up coming under, and the world is a marketplace. So I think Pan has the potential to go in a very good direction in Barbados once guys hold their ground. And I'm also gonna add on to that, the direction that I think would be a good direction might not necessarily be what most persons think it looks like.
Right.
Because I think we've had a lot of events that were like, even back in the day, I think we've had a lot of events that we've realized it was a spectacle. It was really good. Guys ain't really getting paid from it though, right? We've seen a lot of that. I don't think it's really feasible to build an industry on work that guys aren't being paid for, right? What we have then is a very large hobby, right? So yeah, I think we're currently in a position to make better business choices, and what that means is that, in my opinion, we probably won't see a whole lot of 40 and 50-piece steel bands coming up, because I think guys are starting to understand that isn't really going to get paid.
Right.
So I think we're in a position to make things look a bit different, but I think the different could be better.
Okay, that's fair.
At least business and industry wise.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you're teaching at a school right now? Yeah. So do you see them maybe partnering up with the band that you're with right now, or with another band, just to kind of keep that continuous thing going?
Currently, not officially, right? Because the way that our band is currently working is, as I said before, we're not really community based. I would say it's a gigging band. Like we're performing.
Yeah.
Everyone in it has a level of training, a level of professionalism.
Right.
And I don't think that right now on our current trajectory, we may not necessarily be community based to like bring in children and
Okay.
start to train them. Maybe eventually we could get to that stage.
Yeah.
Um, Currently, what's more likely to happen is that players from the school where I teach who may eventually move on to continue playing after school, who would go into the community college program, who would develop that level of professionalism and musical literacy competency.
Right.
Eventually, if we have like a spot available or we need someone to fill in, well, someone is away, someone travels, someone is sick, then I might be able to say, well, I know this youngster that could come in, right? So
Yeah.
it could be an outlet then where perhaps one or two or few persons could make some form of gainful employment, like play somewhere and be paid and do gigs.
Yeah.
Um, I don't necessarily see it being a place where we're set that beginners are coming to learn.
Right.
If we do that, I think that'll probably structure it a bit differently.
Right. Okay. Well, it's good to know. It's good to know that you guys are thinking of Pan as a business mindset than just playing here and there for free and willy-nilly and don't really care. You know what I mean? So you guys are actually putting some substance into it, and that's good to see.
Yeah,
That's good to see.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
starts off as a hobby, I guess, like when you're in
Yeah.
school, but
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
think that beyond, especially beyond the community college, and especially as we're competing with other musicians, right?
Right.
Like it's not just I think to some extent I'm glad that we don't have like the extent of steel band culture in Barbados that some other countries have.
Right.
Um, because what it has done is it's put the pan players kind of on par with all the other musicians, right? Um, so I think we've kind of gotten away from doing some of the things that come with steel band culture
Yeah.
that other musicians would never do, right?
Right.
So I think even like when I was in Trinidad, I would notice like a lot of the guys that play pan also play other instruments: sax, trumpet, brass, piano, drums,
Yeah.
um, string instruments, guitar. And you would realize that there's a way that they would do things when performing or working in other environments that they kind of let slide with steel bands,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've never seen like a horn section in rehearsal for like they leave work, come to rehearse and rehearse all night and have work the next morning, and then 2 days before the gig, the section leader will come and say, "Well, yeah, I need to drop two players."
Right.
Like, nah, like I think there are things that we do within the steel band community that isn't standard practice
Yeah.
musically, business wise. So I think, in as much as yeah, I love the steel band culture. I would love to be in a big. I like the vibe of a big band. When I
Yeah.
was in Trinidad playing, even when I go to St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Antigua for Panorama, um, I like it. I enjoy it. I would love to be able to arrange for one of these bands one day.
It
Um,
will happen.
I hopefully, right? But I also
Yeah.
acknowledge that the business practice that surrounds a lot of the steel band culture. Kind of glad that it didn't work out that way for us. That I can see the
Yeah.
differences,
Right.
which is why I
Well,
would say once again, I think with the mindset of the current, the younger crop of musicians, I do not see it going that direction, and
right.
I don't really see it as a bad thing either.
Right. Well, it's good to hear. It's good to
Yeah,
hear. Honestly, it's good to hear. I just want to touch base on something because you did something really big a few weeks ago. You played Arranged. I don't know if you played Arranged for Barbados Independence.
Oh, I played, but I didn't play with the National Youth Steel Orchestra
Okay.
because I played with other groups. I was actually after the orchestra played, there
Mm-hmm.
was a there's an engine room rhythm section that I used to play with,
Right.
right? So I dropped out of that a while back just for personal reasons. No,
Hmm.
no beef between me and the guys. We still all cool.
That's good.
Which is why when I realized that I was gonna be there and they were gonna be there, I said, well, I could just jump in and play.
Well, why not?
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
that was I played with them. However, the National Youth Steel Orchestra, I currently function as one of the assistant directors. So we
Oh,
currently
okay.
have two assistant directors, myself and a guy called Omar Haynes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I did that. I have a couple of my former students who are in the orchestra, and I also arranged one of the songs,
Nice.
right?
So
So I
how was
think
that experience for you?
um I it was a good experience, right?
Yeah.
I think a band that size has played my arrangements before,
Mm-hmm.
right? In Mosaic Steel Orchestra and Karmic when it was named that. Um, I think it was a bit different, however, being that this time it was a junior group, right?
Right.
So it ended up being a case where I mean, like I know how to like tone down certain aspects of arranging
Mm-hmm.
so that a less experienced group could play, right? Because one of the things that also happened is that this was actually their first performance as Barbados National Youth Steel Orchestra,
Oh, wow.
right? Yeah. So before, what had happened, as I said before, like I was an original member back in like 2007, six,
Mm-hmm.
7 around there. By 2008, 9, that kind of dissolved.
Okay.
Um, so by 2019, what they did, we have an event called Pan Pandisan, right?
Right.
It's like a big event on the beach. Steel
Yeah,
bands
yeah,
come out to play. So the National Cultural Foundation at the time, they had this idea of forming like a combined schools orchestra,
yeah.
um,
Okay.
which I sent some of my students to. Some of my students were interested, and
Mm-hmm.
we did that. That was in 2019. Um, and then right after that, so I think we did like one more performance, maybe two, and
Mm-hmm.
then COVID hit.
Right.
So anything that was continuing in the plans kind of get put back
Mm-hmm.
until now, which is now they're performing as the National Youth
Yeah.
Steel Orchestra. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad to see that going. Um, there are some things in it that I'd like to see done a bit differently, which I will refrain from saying as I'm currently kind of still with them, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah, right. Maybe those are things that are better said
Right.
um, within the management circle,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there. I mean, and plus nothing is perfect. They have done one
Of course.
performance under that title.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely room for improvement. I'm glad that
Yeah.
it was restarted. Um, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like honestly to see it go to a place of like in Trinidad they have NSSO, the
Mm-hmm.
National Steel Symphony Orchestra, right? I
Yeah.
would really like to see it go to a place where maybe the best of them could be playing in an adult orchestra, being paid professionally, right?
Yeah.
Um, representing the island on another level.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to see it come to that point.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. Like we're currently still in the very beginning stages.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you guys started and played for the Independents, were you guys practicing, was that like a once a week practice or was it like practice every day? How did that
Um,
work out?
it started like we did a workshop in August, like late August, and that
Okay.
went straight into I think it was like a 2 week workshop. where there were some beginners in there as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? That went straight into rehearsals. Rehearsals started off as like once, twice a week, and as time went on and the date became closer, and we needed to get the material finished.
Right.
Yeah, the rehearsal times got longer
Right.
and more frequent.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
So how is the youth taking on Steelpan right now? Are they gravitating toward it? Are they excited to learn and play? Or are they just kind of, it's there, we're learning, and we'll see where it goes?
I think they're both those mindsets exist.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are some that are really excited to be learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are some, especially like I think right now I think it has the support of a lot of parents as well. Right? There are a
Okay.
lot of
Okay.
parents who are like who saw it and were like, yeah, I want my child to be in this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially like the way things have been in Barbados for the past 2 years, like school has been like on and off,
Right.
online sometimes, in person other times.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the school bands have not been able to function the way that we'd like. Um,
Okay.
so you're finding there were some students who were really excited to start and then couldn't, or they started and couldn't continue.
Right.
Right? And they were parents. So yeah, there is that level of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
There were some who were playing from before, but like I said, a lot of the community bands have kind of dissolved.
Right.
So there were some people who had learned before and were wondering, well, where am I going to play now?
Mm. Okay.
So that opens up an avenue.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you have the parent support, getting their child in there and making sure they're there to learn and practice.
Yeah.
Because, if I was by myself, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to practice. No. Yeah. So before we're at our hour, it was an amazing hour. Is there anything, do you have any projects coming up that we can look out for? Do you have,
Yeah, actually. All right. Well,
yeah?
I had a project that's been coming up for like 2 years now, right?
So it's coming out this year is what you're saying.
um, Hopefully, once circumstances allow, right?
Okay.
So in 2020, I started um, recording an album. I completed recording an album, and my
Okay.
plan was to release it early 2021.
Right.
Um, the protocols, however, back home was, well, I say back home because I'm currently not in Barbados.
Right.
Yeah. So the protocols that we were under were like I remember church buildings were like no more than 25 persons.
Oh, really?
Anybody else is joining like via Zoom or live stream,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Certain venues that maybe I think there was a venue that used to hold 200, 250 persons.
Hmm.
They were told, well, with social distancing, you can hold like 100. Right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it became a case where I wanted to not just put out an album, I
Right.
wanted to do like an album launch and have a
Right.
concert and have a captive audience in the auditorium that's gonna buy the CD when I'm done playing, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh,
uh,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff. And circumstances haven't been allowing that to make sense,
Right.
right? So like it's a case currently where the expense of putting on the show wouldn't make sense if like 20 people are allowed to come inside,
Yeah.
or if up to 100 persons are allowed to come inside, right?
Right.
Although maybe 100 persons is still being hopeful. I mean, yeah, nobody know me, right?
What do you mean?
Right. But yeah, so currently I actually have a box of CDs in my bedroom
Just
and
sitting
another
there.
box of download cards that they're just there waiting until I can hold an event that makes sense.
It's gonna happen this year. I have faith.
I hope
When that
so.
happens, give me the info and I will spread the word.
Yeah, please do.
I
So,
will. I will.
so I'm also gonna I'm gonna do that, and then after that, I'm gonna do a virtual version,
Okay.
just so that
Again.
so that you have something that can be posted.
Yes. Because I love watching you play. I don't know what it is. Your hands, just amazing.
Thank you.
You have the nice touch. You have a nice touch. Um, so you said you like arranging. People
Yeah,
can hire you?
of course. Yep,
Okay,
yep,
cool.
yep, yep, yep.
Cool. Is there
Um,
like is there like a time period? Like if someone needs a song right now, how long?
Honestly, I think I score songs pretty quickly.
Oh, okay then.
Um,
Okay.
well, sheet music wise, I
Hmm.
provide sheet music pretty quickly, I find.
Okay.
Um, in terms of doing a song, not by sheet music, by rote,
Hmm.
I tend to do that even quicker, right?
Okay, good to
So
know.
it's never been a case where someone needed an arrangement like right now,
Yeah.
but I tend to be a bit ahead of schedule when
Okay.
asked to arrange. I think there
Okay.
was one time I did like a orchestral score, not for steel orchestra, like orchestra symphony orchestra.
Oh
I think
wow.
I did
Okay.
one like overnight a time. There was one time that I remember like I had to do a performance with the Barbados National Youth Orchestra, not Youth
Right.
Steel Orchestra, the Youth Symphony Orchestra,
Okay.
and it was there like, you know what song I really want to do? I really want to do this pan. They won't have that arrangement though, and they started laptop and they started right. So I asked my friend who plays violin, and he was like,
Right.
okay, so like, what's the range of this instrument? And so like, is it
Hmm.
tenor clef or because okay, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna try this arrangement. And he said, all right, no problem. And then at the end of the night, I sent him it like, okay, so that you could chat through this and let me know if everything is in range and if it makes
Oh my
sense. And he was
goodness.
like, wait, already? Right, right.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think like
Okay.
my scoring tends to go pretty quickly, but I've never been in a situation where a
Hmm.
person was like, yeah, I need this song tomorrow.
Okay.
That'll be a bit different.
Right. Well, that's good to know that you're quick with it.
Yeah.
You said you did a symphony. Have you thought of putting uh the youth band and the symphony together? Has that ever been done?
1 minute.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it has.
okay.
I think I don't want to call it wrong. Maybe around 2009. There was an event that I remember we actually combined the Youth Symphony Orchestra and the Youth
Hmm.
Steel Orchestra, right?
Okay. Good.
What we've also done for the same Independence concert, one of the songs was performed with the Steel Orchestra, but also with the string section from the Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but I didn't post that one because it wasn't my arrangement.
Fair.
Yeah, right.
I get it. I get it. But if it was, you would have posted it.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So then you
They
have to do
can't
that.
post like they can't post like the whole concert like that wouldn't.
Yeah. That's fair. So then next time you're gonna post the strings and the steel band, and then you're gonna arrange it, and then you're gonna post it, and then I'll share
Yeah, one day.
it.
Right.
Okay.
I think
You
the
just started. You
director
have plenty
actually
of
had the
time.
set list all planned out. So the song that I arranged was the song that was assigned to me,
Okay.
and the song with the orchestra and strings that was assigned to the guy that arranged it. So
Got you.
it wasn't really my call. Right. But yeah, we've been doing I think bands out here for as long as I can remember playing have been trying these things. I've done a time it was I did a classical show a time it was steel band trio and organ.
Oh
Right.
wow.
Yeah, we did Flight of the Bumblebee. It was on double tenor. I think it was tenor, double seconds, and an organ. Um, we've done steel band and horn section.
Of
Right.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, we've put horns with the steel band already. When it was in Trinidad, One of the things that I know that UE, that DCFA was always very big on, Mr. Jessel Murray. He used to conduct the UE Steel ensemble, as
Yeah.
well as the UE Arts Chorale, right? So every year there were at least two concerts that featured steel and chorale together, right?
I did not know that. Okay.
It's usually done like we do. Well, used to do. I'm no longer there,
Yeah.
right? But I think they still do it. The Christmas concert, um, and it's usually a lot of the classical works. So the um Magnificat, because it's Christmas time,
Yeah.
right? A lot of I think the last thing I remember playing was off the Carl Orff, Carmina Burana. It's like
Really?
24. I think it's like 24 movements.
Yeah.
The first was like boom, oh Fortuna, boom, boom. So yeah, we did like all 24 movements of that. Like
Wow.
yeah, like that I think that was actually like the whole second half of our show was was that, right?
How was that on double second?
No, it was on tenor at that time.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I was
It
gonna
was on
say,
tenor at that.
even the flight of the Bumblebee on double second, like that.
You know, playing it on, I don't on double tenor. I could get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, but
You're
double
better than me because I would
I
have been
don't
like, nope.
I don't even try with double seconds anymore. Like take my brain, like I said, I think my brain can take one double pan at a time, and I'm done trying to force it. When I buy my own double tenor, I'm gonna buy a double tenor with like a long skirt, so it looks like a seconds,
You're
and
hilarious.
yeah, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah,
Right?
that is
So
funny.
yeah, I think there's been a point of mixing steel band with other elements, other musical elements, right?
Mm.
Interesting take on that. I remember actually having an interview when when I did my thesis for UE. I think we call it a thesis. I don't think it's a real thesis in the
Okay.
the sense of the word. I think the
Okay.
thesis is more of a postgrad thing, right?
Okay.
But when we were doing our final project,
Hmm.
my topic was actually on the development of steel pan and steel bands in Barbados. So I interviewed the guy who initially taught me at summer camp, who's
Yeah.
actually one of very few tuners that we currently have in Barbados.
I was gonna ask you
And
about that. Okay.
one of the things that I remember he telling me, he actually said he thinks that we've kind of stunted pan
Mm.
by by constantly putting it in this thing of a steel band, because then people tend to see pan as something that only works around other pans, and
Yeah.
he's waiting for the day that a steel pan can be in a standard in an orchestra, right? So yeah, I think I, I agree with him to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Not to the extent of putting it that the steel band, that the institution of a steel band is somehow detrimental.
Right.
But I could kind of see where he's coming from,
Yeah.
and like yeah, right. But then there's
Yeah.
also the other side of that where why does it need to be accepted only when it's in this particular
Right.
construct, right? Why don't we
Yeah.
accept it as our own until it can be put in a European orchestra? Yeah,
Yeah.
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 We've had those discussions.
Do you still have that? Because I feel like that should be posted.
I yeah.
I feel like.
He agreed to an audio interview. It's not a video.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Either way.
it was just there like with my phone on the ground. We talking, right? We
Yeah.
sit down under the tree and talking. I rest on my phone, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Either way, I still feel that should be posted
yeah,
if you can. If you can. Or give it to Bree, 'cause I know Bree's been asking for a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brielle. Hi, Brielle. So I actually know
Hi,
Brielle from
DJ.
UB.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's been a lot of. I think that particular project gave me a lot of insight
Hmm.
in terms of interviewing some of the older guys and seeing um what they think, and
Yeah.
even like I think one of the things that I did was I kind of like hinted, all right, well, I interviewed this other guy before calling any names, and he said such and such. And the other someone else would say, oh, well, I completely disagree with him because if we don't do that, then right. So I kind of did that just to
Yeah.
get a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that kind of gave me some insight as to why certain guys will never get along.
Right.
Um, why certain people started to disagree in the first place. Um, yeah, I think it gave some tea was spilled, right? But
Interesting.
yeah, well, I think it kind of explains a bit of why things are the way they are,
Over there. Right. Right.
especially within our relatively small community.
And it's very small. It's very small. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you with I know we touched on it earlier before we go. Um, do you think the youth that are playing pan now would take it where it needs to be 5, 10 years from now? Or do you think it'll take a bit
Um,
longer?
Let me see, 5, 10 years, possibly, right?
Okay.
I want to say possibly. Um, Maybe not where it needs to be,
Hmm.
but definitely further than it currently is, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I think, like I said before, a lot of the younger guys I find to be a bit more business minded,
Yeah.
and I think there's less contention among persons from, let me say, I would say my generation and below, right?
Hmm.
Maybe a little above my generation,
Yeah.
which I guess in my late 20s kind of still counts as my peers,
Yeah.
well, professionally,
Yeah.
right? I think there's a bit less contention, at least at this point, a bit less rivalry, less of the squabbles, right?
Hmm.
Give us time, perhaps we'll find something to argue about,
Don't say
um,
that. Why are you saying that? Why? Why? Why?
right? But
Why?
yeah, but at this point, I think there's a bit more room for it to develop.
Hmm.
I think there's a better understanding of the music business,
Right.
and I think between myself and some other guys, we sit at a very interesting cross section where we have seen bands, new bands form, where we
Hmm.
have ourselves form new bands, where we've seen other bands um, dissipate,
Yeah.
where we understand why other people are quarreling. Um, we kind of understand some of the beef among the older guys. Um, some of us are at the point where the older guys start to beef with us, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think is a we're at an interesting cross section. I'm not sure if I can say in 5, 10 years we will be where we need to be,
Hmm.
but I
Hopefully
would
in the right
say
direction.
definitely in a better place than currently.
I agree.
Providing that things are allowed to open up
Yeah.
and things keep on the current trajectory, right? Even if it's just a case of soloists and small bands,
Hmm.
right? Even if it's a case of like just being open to more opportunities, right? I've realized over the past couple years, a lot of opportunities like on cruise ships and
Yeah.
overseas on in hotels and stuff have been presenting themselves.
Yeah.
So we've actually had quite a few of our young up and coming panis leave, right? And
Yeah.
they would go on the cruise ships. They would take on the contracts. In 2012 is when they would have done Qatar,
Yeah.
right? Had my mindset been different, I'd probably remain there or do a different contract,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be elsewhere. But I think there's some opportunities that are presenting themselves,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. More than ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and guys tend to be a bit more organized. We have a better understanding of some of the business.
Yes.
Um, there are some of the older guys, not necessarily only in the steel band community, but the music community in general, who are always willing to give advice, who are
Mm-hmm.
always willing to tell us stories of what they did wrong,
Yeah.
um, who are always willing to tell us stories of what they did right. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we're currently the current generation. I think is in a much better position than previous generations would have been at our age.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Would you ever do a cruise ship if if someone presented that option to you
Um, I'm not
in the
sure at
future?
this point that I do it long term. Like
Right.
currently, I'm in Canoan, and I'm doing this contract because it was like a 2.5 week contract. Like we're pretty
Okay.
much just here for the Christmas season. I'm leaving in a couple days, right?
Right.
And that was pretty easy to do, considering that school was number one online, so
Right.
I didn't need to physically be at school. And then I think my contract started like the day after the school term ended,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah, so like the school term ended on the Friday, and the
Hmm.
Saturday we flew out,
Wow.
right? So I do not think that where I currently am, the stuff, my current commitments,
Hmm.
that I would take on, let's say, another 4 month contract and resign my teaching job and give up the current gigs that I have at home
Yeah.
and go to Dubai. I don't see that happening, right?
Right.
At this stage, or maybe or do a cruise ship that I
Right.
know, yeah, because I think one of the things with doing like those contracts and with doing a cruises and stuff is I think your initial contract might be 3 4 months.
Hmm.
Um, at the time that you join on, there's really no guarantee that you're going to be renewed, right? And even
Yeah.
if you're renewed, there's no guarantee that you're going to have another contract immediately after,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you kind of go like, where your options, like, well, will I give up what I currently have at home, um, and pursue this? Perhaps
Yeah.
it might pay more, um, but it will pay more for a few months, and then
Exactly.
I do not know where I'll be after that. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll renew a contract. Maybe another contract will come. Maybe I'll be home unemployed after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where my mind is at. I don't
I like
think I'm
that.
at a place in life to resign what I'm currently doing
Hmm.
and take on a cruise contract.
Yeah.
Or maybe I do it like if it was one like this that they need someone to come on for like
A couple
summer
months.
break, like
Yeah.
the school term ends in the end of June, and I can be out all summer until school until
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
starts back in September,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But I don't think I'd be up for a real long term contract that requires me to leave what I'm currently doing home.
Yeah. Huh. Well, it's good to know. A lot of
Yeah,
information. Can't wait to hear your album that's gonna come out this year. I'm putting it out there.
can't wait to let people hear it. Can't wait. I think there are like two people. Wait, let me not lie.
Oh,
Yeah, I think two people have heard it so far.
okay. And good things so
There,
far?
yeah, so
Okay.
far, there have
Okay.
been good comments. One was actually a student of mine.
Okay.
Uh, I teach at there's a music school in Barbados called Notes of Praise. It's a Christian-based music school,
Okay.
and I teach there. One of their students actually recently graduated, went to school at my alma mater, right? And
Okay.
for her project for CXC for O levels, she had to interview a musician, and she had to analyze some of their, yeah, so it was kind of within arm's reach, right?
Yeah.
So I did the
I'm like,
interview with her.
if she didn't interview you, there'd be a problem.
No, I kind of would prefer if you interview someone that, yeah, that isn't your teacher, right? Like someone that you're not already connected to. But yeah, she needed some like samples of my music, so it was like, here, have this, and they gave her one of the download cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach her pan on Saturday, but
Okay.
I'm not the music teacher at the school. So what she ended up doing was she gave the download card to my old music teacher,
Oh.
right? Like, here, this is my submission, right?
Oh
So
my
he
goodness.
happened to see me in the mall one day and was like, "Yeah, I heard your album is great."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was
That's
like,
funny. That's funny.
like, he just gave him like, she needed to analyze like one or two songs, and she gave him like the whole download
The
card.
whole.
Right.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, but so far like the couple of people that have heard it have given
Good
pretty good reviews.
That's good. That's good. Is it soca based? Is it R&B based? Is it classical? Is it a bit of everything? If you don't
I
mind
would
me asking.
say more jazz based,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So yeah, I consider myself to be more on the jazz end of the spectrum. I
Okay.
do a fair amount of improvisation. Um, I improvise in every song on the album. I'm not gonna lie, right?
I
um,
cannot wait to hear it,
yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Maybe yeah. Some have like, I think there's one song with like an East Indian influence.
Okay.
There's one song that's like it has spooge. That's a genre that we do in Barbados. It's fairly vintage, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not very popular outside of Barbados.
Right.
Right. I think Duvon actually messaged me a while back and was like, "Yo, he's not hearing this stuff. He likes it." Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, I'm hoping to be able to launch it the way I'd like this year.
it's gonna happen. I'm gonna put it out there. It's gonna happen. Then we're all gonna hear it. We're all gonna buy it. I'll post it. It'll be great.
Yeah,
Well, we will end it here. We can talk more later. Open discussion
yeah,
whenever you have time.
no problem.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me tonight. It was great. Happy New Year, because I didn't really say that earlier.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year to
Year.
you as well, and to everyone watching.
Yes, Happy New Year. DJ Waka, he's also from Barbados. So he's here in Calgary, Alberta.
Okay,
Yeah, near me. So yeah, a project coming up, band, touring. I'm putting it out there for you. You're gonna tour, yeah.
yeah. There's actually another trip kind of on the papers for later this year.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't want to put too much out there in terms of details, mainly
Okay.
because I have not heard a bunch of details myself.
Fair
I
enough.
kind of just know what the event is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. It's gonna happen. It's gonna
yeah.
happen.
So far, it looks like it's gonna happen. So far,
Yeah. So far, it's gonna happen. Yeah, so you have a good night. Thanks
same you.
again. I appreciate you. Thank you for everyone watching and joining us tonight. Um, until next week, have a good night.
Good night.
Happy New Year. New Year,
Thanks for
guys.
having me.
Of course. Thank you for being on. Bye, everyone.